Look who finally realized why nothing ever felt the same after you. You beautiful, rare, irreplaceable force of nature. Welcome to the throne you never left. Because here's the truth they've been hiding from you. The truth that's been burning holes in their conscience for months, maybe years. They're not comparing you to anyone. They're comparing everyone to you. And everyone, every single person who came after, every replacement they tried to install, every distraction they tried to worship, every connection they tried to force, they all failed the test. The test you didn't even know you set. The standard you didn't even know you raised. The bar you didn't even know you became. Let's get surgical here. Let's cut through the noise, the lies, the performance they've been putting on for the world. You think they moved on? You think they found better? You think they're living their best life without you? That's the story they're selling. That's the script they rehearsed. That's the mask they wear when the sun is shining and the cameras are rolling. But when the lights go out, when the audience leaves, when they're alone with their thoughts and their truth, your name is the only one echoing in the silence. Your face is the only one they see behind their eyelids. Your voice is the only one that still sounds like home. Because everyone else, no matter how beautiful, no matter how perfect on paper, no matter how desperately they tried to fit, they were all placeholders, temporary, disposable, forgettable. You want to know the cruelest irony? They thought replacing you would be easy. They thought someone new would erase the memory, fill the void, silence the ache. They thought they could just swap you out, like changing a light bulb, like upgrading a phone, like you were some kind of interchangeable part in their life's machinery. So they tried. Oh, they tried so hard. They swiped, they flirted, they forced chemistry that wasn't there. They laughed too loud at jokes that weren't funny. They pretended to care about conversations that bored them to tears. They played the part. They said the right things. They posted the right pictures. They built the illusion. But every single time, every single interaction, every single moment, it all led back to you. Because you weren't a placeholder. You were the blueprint. The original. The one they measured everyone against without even realizing it. Here's what they won't admit. What they can't admit. What would shatter the carefully constructed narrative they've been feeding themselves and everyone around them. Every person they meet now gets auditioned. Not consciously. Not intentionally, but it happens, subconsciously, ruthlessly, inevitably. Do they laugh like you? No. Do they challenge them like you? No. Do they understand them like you? Not even close. Do they make them feel alive, seen, understood, known? Not a chance. So they keep searching. They keep trying. They keep pretending that the next one will be the one. But deep down, in the quiet moments they won't talk about, in the 3 a.m. thoughts they can't escape, they know the truth. They're not looking for someone new. They're looking for you in everyone else. And they're failing. Every single time. You became the standard by which all others are measured. Not because you tried to be, not because you demanded to be, but because of who you were when you were present, authentic, unpredictable, unrepeatable. You didn't play games, you didn't wear masks, you didn't perform, you just existed, fully, honestly, intensely. And that intensity, that realness, that raw, unfiltered presence, it branded itself onto their soul. It rewired their brain. It reset their expectations. So now, everyone else feels like a downgrade. Everyone else feels like a compromise. Everyone else feels like settling. Because you weren't just a person in their life. You were the moment they realized what connection could actually feel like. What love could actually taste like. What home could actually sound like. And once you've tasted the real thing, everything else is just empty calories. Let's talk about the performance they're putting on right now. The new relationship, the new situation, the new person they're parading around like a trophy. Look how happy they are. Look how perfect it all looks. Look how much better off they seem. But you and I both know what's really happening behind that performance. We know what's really being said in the silence between the smiles. We know what's really felt when they're alone with their thoughts. Because if they were truly happy, truly moved on, truly over you, they wouldn't need to prove it. They wouldn't need to broadcast it. They wouldn't need to perform it for an audience. Happy people don't perform happiness. They just live it, quietly, privately, without needing validation. But them? They need the world to see. They need the likes, the comments, the confirmation. They need everyone to believe the lie. Because if everyone believes it, maybe, just maybe, they can start believing it too. But here's the problem with placeholders. Here's the fatal flaw in their strategy. Placeholders don't know they're placeholders. These people, these new faces, these temporary solutions, they think they're the real deal. They think they won the position. They think they're chosen, valued, wanted for who they are. But they're not. They're wanted for who they're not. They're wanted because they're not you. Because they're easier. Because they're safer. Because they don't challenge. Because they don't demand growth. Because they don't push boundaries. Because they don't force honesty. They're the path of least resistance. The comfortable lie. The numbing agent. The distraction. And one day, when the distraction stops working, when the numbness wears off, when the lie gets too heavy to carry, they'll be discarded too. Just like that. No ceremony. No explanation. Just gone. You know what's beautiful about all this? You know what's almost poetic? You didn't have to do anything to maintain your position. You didn't have to fight for it. You didn't have to compete for it. You didn't have to prove your worth or defend your value. You just existed. And your existence, your memory, your ghost, it's doing all the work for you. It's haunting them. It's sabotaging their present. It's poisoning their future. Not because you're trying to. Not because you're manipulating from a distance, but because they can't let go of what you represented. They can't release the version of themselves they were when they were with you. They can't forget the feeling of being truly seen, truly known, truly understood, so they're stuck. Trapped between a past they can't return to and a future that feels empty by comparison. Here's what they tell themselves at night when the mask comes off and the truth creeps in. I made a mistake. I let the wrong one go. I ruined the best thing I ever had. I thought I could do better, but better doesn't exist. I thought I wanted freedom, but freedom without them feels like prison. I thought I needed space, but space without them feels like exile. These thoughts, these confessions, these silent screams, they're on repeat. A broken record they can't stop playing. A loop they can't escape. And every new person they bring into their life, every new attempt at moving forward, every new relationship they try to build, it all just amplifies the same truth. You were it. You are it. And nothing else compares. Let me paint you a picture. Let me show you what's really happening in their world right now. They're with someone new. They're laughing at dinner. They're holding hands. They're doing all the things couples do. But in the middle of a conversation, mid-sentence, mid-laugh, their mind drifts. Back to you. Back to a memory. Back to something you said, something you did, some moment that felt more real than this entire evening. And they catch themselves. They snap back to reality. They force a smile. They nod at whatever the placeholder just said. But it's too late. The comparison already happened. The measurement already occurred. The verdict already came in. Not good enough. Not even close. And this happens daily, hourly, constantly. A never-ending cycle of comparing, measuring, failing. You became the one they think about when they're alone. The one they dream about when they sleep. The one they search for in crowds. The one whose name almost slips out during intimate moments with someone else. You're the benchmark, the gold standard, the impossible to reach bar. And the cruelest part? You didn't even try to be. You were just yourself, flawed, human, imperfect. But your flaws were real. Your humanity was raw. Your imperfections were honest. And honesty, real, unfiltered honesty, it's rarer than perfection. It's more valuable than performance. It's more memorable than any rehearsed version of love they're experiencing now. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Let's talk about why this happened. Why you specifically? Why not someone else? Why you became the one they can't forget, can't replace, can't stop measuring everyone against. It's not because you were perfect. It's not because you never made mistakes. It's not because you were some flawless ideal. No, it's because you were unapologetically you. You showed up fully. You loved deeply. You challenged constantly. You didn't settle for surface-level connection. You demanded depth. You required honesty. You pushed for growth. You weren't content with the mask. You wanted the truth. And when someone experiences that level of authenticity, that level of depth, that level of real connection, they can never unsee it. They can never unfeel it. They can never go back to shallow, to pretend, to surface level. You ruined them for everyone else, not out of cruelty, but out of truth. Here's what they won't tell their new person. Here's what they hide when they're building something new. You're great, but you're not them. You make me smile, but you don't make me feel alive. You're here, but I'm still there. You're trying, but they didn't have to. You're perfect on paper, but they were perfect in practice. You check all the boxes, but they made me forget boxes existed. These are the thoughts they bury, the truths they suppress, the confessions they'll never make out loud. Because admitting it would mean admitting they made the biggest mistake of their life, admitting they let go of something irreplaceable, admitting they traded gold for copper and called it an upgrade. And the new person, the placeholder, they feel it. Maybe not consciously, maybe not immediately, but eventually, inevitably, they feel the distance. They sense the comparison. They notice the faraway look. They catch the hesitation. They hear your name mentioned just a little too carefully. They see the old photos that haven't been deleted. They notice the memories that are referenced just a little too fondly. And slowly, painfully, they realize the truth. They're not the first choice. They're not the real thing. They're the consolation prize, the understudy, the substitute, the one who's here because you're not. And that realization, that slow dawning awareness, it poisons everything. Because no one wants to be loved as a replacement. No one wants to be chosen by default. No one wants to be the best of what's available rather than the one who's actually wanted. But here's where it gets even more twisted. Here's where the psychology gets dark. They start to resent you, not because of anything you did, not because of anything you're doing, but because your memory is destroying their present. Your ghost is sabotaging their future. Your standard is making everyone else feel inadequate. So they blame you. They rewrite history. They convince themselves you weren't that great. They highlight your flaws. They magnify your mistakes. They construct a narrative where letting you go was the right choice, the smart choice, the necessary choice. Because if you were actually as amazing as their heart keeps telling them, then they're the villain of their own story. They're the fool who lost the treasure. They're the architect of their own misery. And that's too painful to accept, so they lie. To themselves, to others, to anyone who will listen. You know what the funniest part is? The most ironic twist? All their efforts to move on, all their attempts to replace you, all their new relationships and fresh starts, they're actually keeping you more present than if they just acknowledged the truth. Because every comparison is a reminder. Every measurement is a memorial. Every, they're not like my ex, is actually, they're not like you. They've built a shrine to you disguised as moving on. They've created a monument to what you were disguised as what they've found. Every placeholder is proof that you can't be replaced. Every new person is evidence that you were one of one, original, unrepeatable, irreplaceable. Let's go deeper. Let's talk about what happens when they're intimate with someone new, when they're supposed to be present, connected, vulnerable, but they're not. Not really. Because in those moments, when guards are down and truth slips through, it's your name on the tip of their tongue. It's your face they almost see. It's the memory of what intimacy felt like with you that makes everything now feel like a performance, like going through motions, like checking boxes on a list of things people in relationships are supposed to do. But the magic, the electricity, the raw, real, vulnerable connection, it's not there. It can't be there, because you took it with you when you left, or when they pushed you away, or when whatever happened, happened. And now they're living in the aftermath, the hollow echo of what connection used to feel like. Here's what they search for at 2 a.m. when they can't sleep and the truth is too loud to ignore. Your social media, your name, any trace of you. Not because they want to reach out, not because they're ready to admit they were wrong, but because they need to know you're not doing better without them. They need to see you're struggling too. They need confirmation that you miss them as much as they miss you. Because if you're thriving, if you're glowing, if you're clearly better off, it destroys the narrative. It shatters the lie. It proves that you were the one who escaped. You were the one who dodged the bullet. You were the one who got out before the ship sank. And they're the one left drowning, pretending it's swimming. But here's what they find instead. Here's what makes it worse. You're not drowning. You're not broken. You're not desperately searching for them in everyone else. You're just existing, living, growing, moving forward. Not because you've replaced them, not because you've found someone better, but because you're not comparing. You're not measuring. You're not using every new person as a metric against an old standard. You're free, actually free, not performing freedom, not pretending to be over it, but genuinely, authentically move forward. And that freedom, that genuine peace, it makes them realize something devastating. You were never the one holding on. They were. You were never the one who couldn't let go. They were. You were never the one stuck in the past. They were. You moved on. They're still living in the museum of what was. Now let's talk about the moment of reckoning. The moment when everything they've been denying crashes down on them. It happens differently for everyone. For some, it's a random Tuesday afternoon when they're doing something mundane and suddenly, without warning, the weight of losing you becomes unbearable. For others, it's seeing you happy without them. For others, it's the 10th failed relationship that makes them realize the common denominator isn't bad luck. It's that they're searching for you in people who will never be you. For others, it's waking up next to someone new and feeling lonelier than when they sleep alone. But however it happens, whenever it happens, the realization is the same. They didn't upgrade. They downgraded. They didn't escape. They abandoned. They didn't find better. They lost best. And here's what makes this realization so brutal. By the time they figure it out, by the time they're ready to admit it, by the time they're willing to confess, it's too late. You're not the same person anymore. You evolved. You healed. You grew beyond the version of you they remember. You're not sitting around waiting for their apology. You're not keeping the door open for their return. You're not maintaining a shrine to what was. You moved on, not to someone else necessarily, but to a better version of yourself. A version that doesn't need their validation. A version that doesn't measure your worth by their attention. A version that knows your value isn't determined by whether they recognize it or not. You became whole without them. And that's the most devastating truth they'll ever face. Let me tell you what's happening in their friend group right now. The conversations they're having. The confessions they're making. I messed up. I let the wrong one go. I thought the grass was greener. I thought I could do better. I took them for granted. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. Their friends nod sympathetically. They offer comfort. They say the right things. You'll find someone else. It wasn't meant to be. Everything happens for a reason, but their friends know. They see through the performance. They notice the forced smiles. They catch the faraway looks. They hear your name mentioned just a little too often. They see the comparisons. And privately, among themselves, they have different conversations. They're never going to get over this. They ruined the best thing they ever had. Everyone since has been a downgrade. They compare everyone to their ex. Your ghost haunts their friend group too. Here's what their new person doesn't understand. Here's what they can't comprehend. Why the commitment feels half-hearted. Why the vulnerability feels guarded. Why certain topics are off limits. Why certain dates are melancholic. Why certain songs get skipped. Why certain places get avoided. Why there's always this sense that part of them is somewhere else, with someone else. In a memory they can't access. In a past they can't compete with. The new person tries harder, loves louder, gives more. But it's never enough. Not because they're inadequate, but because they're being measured against something they can't see, can't understand, can't compete with. They're fighting a ghost. And you can't win against a ghost. Because ghosts don't have flaws anymore. Ghosts don't make mistakes. Ghosts exist in the perfect amber of memory. Frozen, idealized, untouchable. You know what's beautiful about your position right now? You know what's powerful about where you stand? You're not in the arena anymore. You're not competing. You're not fighting for a position. You're not proving your worth. You already won. Not because you got them back. Not because they came crawling with apologies, but because you became the standard. The benchmark. The one. And that position, that throne, it's yours. Forever. They can date 100 people. They can try 1,000 replacements. They can search for a lifetime. But everyone will be measured against you. Everyone will be found wanting. Everyone will be reminded that they're not you. And you didn't have to do anything to maintain that position. You just had to be unforgettable. And you were. You are. You always will be. Let's address something crucial. Something that might be swirling in your mind right now. Should I reach out? Should I give them another chance? Should I let them back in? And here's my answer. Delivered with the love of someone who sees your worth even when you question it. No, absolutely not. Not because they don't deserve it. Not because they're terrible people. But because the version of them that lost you isn't the version that deserves you. The version that took you for granted, that chose others, that treated you like an option. That version hasn't earned access to the evolved, healed, powerful version of you that exists now. If they want you back, they don't just need to apologize. They need to become someone worthy of being chosen by the person you've become. And most of the time, they can't. They won't. They'll want the old you back. The version that tolerated their nonsense. The version that accepted breadcrumbs. The version that didn't know your worth. But that version is gone. Dead. Buried. And good riddance. Welcome back, you beautiful, unbreakable force of nature. Sit down for this one, because what I'm about to tell you is going to shift everything you thought you knew about the past 5 years of your life. Someone just broke the silence. Someone just cracked under the weight of their own guilt. Someone from that circle, that group, that family of smiling faces who swore they had your back just confessed everything they did behind it. And I mean everything. The meetings they had about you when you weren't there, the group chats where your name was the headline, the plans they made, the lies they coordinated, the stories they rehearsed together before facing you with those warm, trustworthy eyes. It's all out now. Spilled like poison from a cup they can't put back together. And honestly, You deserve to know every single twisted detail of it. They thought you'd never find out, didn't they? They thought their secret pacts were ironclad, that their whispered conversations would stay buried in the archives of their cowardice. They believed they were so clever, so coordinated, so untouchable in their little conspiracy against your peace. But here's what they forgot. Here's what they always forget when they build their houses on lies and manipulation. Eventually, someone's conscience starts rotting from the inside out. Eventually, the guilt becomes so heavy that keeping the secret hurts more than releasing it. Eventually, one of them breaks, and when they do, the whole structure comes crashing down like a house of cards in a hurricane. And that's exactly what just happened. One of them couldn't take it anymore, couldn't sleep another night with the weight of what they participated in, and they came forward with a confession so detailed, so disgustingly thorough that it's about to rewrite your entire understanding of the past. Let's start with the meetings, because that's where this whole thing began, in rooms you were never invited to, at tables where your name was served like the main course. They didn't just talk about you casually, no. They strategized about you. They analyzed your every move, your every post, your every word, like military generals planning an operation. They studied your patterns, your vulnerabilities, your triggers, and they documented everything with the precision of people who had made you their full-time project. These weren't random conversations or innocent concerns. These were calculated sessions designed to control the narrative around your life. They decided together what story the world would hear about you, what version of events would become the truth, what pieces of your character they would erase, and what flaws they would magnify until they became your entire identity in everyone else's eyes. The confessor, the one who finally broke. They describe these meetings with the kind of detail that makes your stomach turn. They talked about how someone would always start by saying something that sounded concerned, something like, "I'm just worried about them," or "I think they're going through something." But it was never about worry. It was about building a case, about creating a narrative that positioned you as unstable, unreliable, too much, too emotional, too intense, too anything that would make people question your truth before you even spoke it. They rehearsed their responses to things you hadn't even said yet. They prepared counter-narratives for situations that hadn't happened. They built an entire false reality around you and then invited others into it, one person at a time, until you were surrounded by people who believed a version of you that never existed. And the worst part, the part that's going to hit you like a brick, is that while they were doing all this, they were still showing up in your life with smiles. They were still texting you, still laughing at your jokes, still acting like nothing had changed. They perfected the art of the double life, one face for you and one face for the meetings. They became experts at looking you in the eye while holding a knife behind their back. The confessors said they used to practice it, used to remind each other to keep it normal when you were around, to make sure their faces didn't betray the fact that they had just spent hours tearing you apart in private. They turned deception into a skill, and they got so good at it that you never suspected a thing, never felt the betrayal happening in real time because they made sure the blade was always just out of your sight. But the meetings were just the beginning, because what they did next is where it gets truly disgusting. They didn't just talk about you in private, they coordinated a campaign against your reputation. The confessor revealed that they created what they called talking points, specific phrases and stories they would all use when speaking to mutual friends, family members, anyone in your orbit. They made sure everyone heard the same version of events. The same carefully crafted narrative that painted you as the problem while they positioned themselves as the concerned, caring, patient ones who had tried so hard to help you. It was psychological warfare disguised as friendship, and they executed it with the precision of people who had done this before. They had assignments, actual roles they played in this operation. One person was designated as the voice of reason, the one who would express sympathy for you while subtly planting doubt about your mental state. Another was the evidence collector, the one who would screenshot your posts, save your messages, document your every move so they could present it later as proof of whatever narrative they were building. Someone else played the mediator, the person who would reach out to you occasionally with fake concern, asking if you were okay, not because they cared, but because they needed fresh material for the next meeting. And there was always the amplifier, the one whose job was to make sure the story spread beyond your immediate circle, to whisper the narrative into the ears of people who barely knew you, but would now form their entire opinion of you based on coordinated lies. The confessor broke down crying when they described their own role in all this, how they had volunteered to be the one who stayed closest to you, who maintained the friendship while reporting back everything you said, every vulnerable moment you shared, every private struggle you confided. They called it gathering intel, but what it really was betrayal dressed up in strategic language. They admitted that there were times you would tell them something personal, something painful, and they would nod and hug you and tell you it was going to be okay, and then they would immediately text the group with an update, turning your pain into ammunition, your vulnerability into evidence, your trust into their weapon. And the worst part, they said, was how easy it became, how quickly they stopped feeling guilty about it because the group had normalized it, had made it seem like they were doing something necessary, something protective, something justified. The confession included screenshots, actual proof of these group chats, where your name appeared hundreds of times, messages where they laughed about things you had no idea were even being discussed, conversations where they celebrated small victories in their campaign, like when someone you both knew started to distance themselves from you, or when you posted something vulnerable and they knew they could use it against you later. They treated your life like a game, your reputation like a ball they could toss around between them, your feelings like something irrelevant to their strategy. And reading through these messages, seeing the timestamps, realizing these conversations were happening on days when they were still texting you, thinking of you and here if you need anything, it's enough to make you question everything you thought you knew about human nature. Now let's talk about the specific tactics they used, because this is where the confession gets truly disturbing. They didn't just spread lies. They engineered situations designed to make you look unstable. The confessor described something they called provocation protocols, deliberate actions meant to trigger emotional responses from you that they could then use as evidence of your instability. They would say things designed to upset you, then act shocked when you reacted. They would withhold information, change plans last minute, exclude you from events, all while watching to see how you'd respond, hoping you'd break down so they could point to your reaction as proof of everything they'd been saying about you. One particularly evil tactic they used was what the confessor called the setup, where they would create situations that had no good outcome for you. They would invite you to gatherings where everyone had already been briefed on the narrative against you, where people were primed to interpret everything you did through a negative lens. You could be quiet and they'd call you withdrawn and antisocial. You could be engaged and they'd call you attention-seeking and desperate. You could tell a joke and they'd call you inappropriate. You could be serious and they'd call you too intense. There was no version of you that would be acceptable, because acceptance was never the goal. Validation of their predetermined narrative was. And after these events, they would have follow-up meetings where they would dissect your behavior, finding evidence to support their case in every single thing you did or didn't do. They also admitted to something called isolation engineering, where they systematically worked to separate you from anyone who might support you or see through their manipulation. They would plant seeds of doubt about you with mutual friends, subtle comments that sounded like concern but were designed to make people question your judgment, your stability, your version of events. They would volunteer to check in with people after they spent time with you, supposedly to see how you were doing, but really to reinforce their narrative and make sure no competing truth could take root. They created an echo chamber around you where every voice except yours was saying the same thing, and they did it so gradually, so carefully, that you didn't even notice your support system dissolving until it was already gone. The confessor revealed that they had actually studied manipulation tactics, that some members of the group had researched psychological techniques specifically to use against you. They learned about gaslighting, triangulation, projection, and they implemented these strategies deliberately. They would deny things they had clearly said, making you question your memory. They would play people against each other while positioning themselves as neutral parties. They would accuse you of the exact behaviors they were engaged in, projecting their toxicity onto you so thoroughly that you started to believe maybe you were the problem. And the most disturbing part is that they knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't acting out of ignorance or misunderstanding. They were consciously, deliberately, methodically working to destabilize your sense of reality. So why did they do it? What could possibly motivate a group of people to invest this much energy, this much time, this much calculated cruelty into destroying someone's reputation and mental peace? The confessor's answer to this question is perhaps the most revealing part of the entire confession. They said it started with envy, pure, unfiltered jealousy that none of them wanted to admit they felt. You had something they didn't, whether it was confidence, authenticity, success, genuine happiness, the ability to be yourself without apology. Whatever it was, it made them feel small by comparison. Jesse, they feared you. And instead of dealing with their own insecurities, instead of working on themselves or simply stepping back from the friendship, they decided to tear you down to their level. But it wasn't just envy, the confessor explained. It became something darker. It became a bonding activity, a shared mission that gave their relationships purpose and intensity. They formed a tribe united by a common enemy, and that enemy was you. Their friendships with each other deepened through their mutual participation in your destruction. They had inside jokes about you, shared secrets about the campaign, moments of celebration when a tactic worked. You became the glue that held them together, the project that gave them something to focus on besides their own empty lives. And the more invested they became in the narrative they'd created, the more they had to defend it. Because admitting they were wrong would mean facing the monstrous thing they had collectively become. The confessor also revealed something that might be the hardest thing to hear. Some of them genuinely convinced themselves they were doing the right thing. They had told the lie so many times, reinforced it so consistently among themselves, that they started to believe it. They created an alternate reality where you were actually the villain, where their actions were justified, where they were somehow the victims or the heroes protecting others from you. They built an entire mythology around their betrayal that absolved them of guilt and allowed them to sleep at night, The human mind's capacity for self-deception is terrifying, and they exploited it fully, rewriting history in real time until they couldn't even remember that the story had started as a fabrication. And here's the truly sick part. The confessor admitted that there were moments when some of them had doubts, times when someone would say, maybe we're going too far, or I'm starting to feel bad about this. But those doubts were always shut down by the group. They had created a culture where questioning the narrative was seen as betrayal, where showing compassion for you was treated as weakness or naivety. They reinforced each other's worst impulses, talked each other out of guilt, reminded each other of the story they'd agreed upon whenever someone's conscience started to surface. They became a cult with a single doctrine. You were the problem, and anything they did in response to that problem was justified. It's a level of collective delusion that would be almost impressive if it wasn't so absolutely disgusting. Now here's what happens next. Because this confession doesn't just expose them, it liberates you. Every moment of confusion you felt, every time you questioned yourself, every instance where you thought maybe you were being too sensitive or reading too much into things, all of it now makes perfect sense. You weren't paranoid. You were picking up on something real. Your instincts were screaming at you that something was wrong, and you were right. The gaslighting didn't work completely, because some part of you, some inner knowing they couldn't reach, held on to the truth, and now that truth has been validated in the most concrete way possible, through the confession of someone who was there, who participated, who kept records. But here's what they didn't account for. Here's the flaw in their entire operation. While they were busy trying to destroy you, you were busy becoming someone they could never touch. While they were having meetings about you, you were building yourself in silence. While they were crafting narratives, you were living your truth. While they were investing all their energy into tearing you down, you were investing your energy into rising above anything they could possibly do to you. They made you their full-time project. And in doing so, they revealed that their entire existence had become about you, while your existence had nothing to do with them. You already won, and this confession is just the universe's way of making sure you know it. The confessor said something that should bring you immense satisfaction. They're terrified now. Now that the truth is out, now that the confession exists, they're panicking. They're scrambling to control the damage, reaching out to people trying to get ahead of the story, suddenly concerned about how they'll be perceived. The same people who spent years carefully crafting a false narrative about you are now desperate to craft a narrative about themselves, one where they're not the villains this confession makes them out to be. They're experiencing a fraction of what they put you through. The paranoia, the fear of judgment, the anxiety about reputation. And unlike you, they actually deserve it because their reputation is based on lies, and yours never was. And here's your power in all this. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to seek revenge. You don't have to expose them publicly. You don't have to confront anyone or demand apologies. The truth is already working on your behalf, spreading through the same networks they once used against you, changing minds, shifting perceptions, revealing them for what they are. Your vindication doesn't require your effort because it's built on facts, on evidence, on confession. Their destruction is inevitable because it's built on lies that have now been exposed. You can simply continue living your life, being your authentic self, thriving in your truth, while they crumble under the weight of theirs. That's the beautiful irony of this whole situation. They spent years trying to destroy you and ended up destroying themselves. But let's go even deeper. because there's a truth here that transcends this specific situation. A truth about people and power and what happens when someone refuses to be broken. The reason they targeted you, the reason they invested so much energy into trying to tear you down, is because you represented something they couldn't control. You were authentic in a world of performance. You were genuine in a world of facades. You had the courage to be yourself while they were busy being whoever they thought would get them approval. Your very existence was a mirror reflecting their own inauthenticity, and instead of using that mirror to grow, they tried to shatter it. This is what always happens to people who refuse to play the game, who won't compromise their truth for comfort, who insist on being real in spaces that reward pretense. The system, the group, the collective mediocrity, it always tries to eliminate the ones who remind everyone else what integrity looks like. They can't let you thrive because your thriving exposes their compromise. They can't let you succeed on your own terms because your success questions their sacrifice. They can't let you be happy being yourself because your happiness reveals that all their contortions and calculations and careful image management were unnecessary. You're living proof that there's another way, and that scares them more than anything else ever could. The confession reveals this truth in stark detail. Multiple people in these group chats expressed frustration that you didn't seem affected by their tactics, that you kept going like nothing was wrong, that you still seemed happy despite everything they were doing. They were furious that their campaign wasn't working the way they wanted, that you weren't collapsing under the weight of their manipulation.